Welcome to the MindGem Podcast, where we dive deep into the future of work, explore the secrets of workplace well-being, and uncover the magic of personal branding and development. Our mission is to help you discover your inner gem so you can shine brightly and make a positive impact in your life and career. I'm your host, Ratna, and today we have a special guest joining us, Debbie Ng, the Senior Director, People and Culture of Singapore Pools. In her current capacity, Debbie helps leaders and colleagues realize their potential in their career journey. Her work entails workforce planning, talent attraction and retention, employee experience, as well as communication strategies. She is proud when business grows, strong relationships are forged, and colleagues enjoy coming to work every day. While she has close to 25 years of experience working with global MNCs, government and startup sectors, her journey of acquiring new skills and building relationships is continuous. On a personal front, she loves food and enjoys the stillness and peace of meditation. Let's dive into the conversation. Hi, Debbie. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for making time for this conversation. Really grateful for you to make time for this.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me here, Rana. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Maybe before we start, right, could you share a little bit more about your career journey, how you started and how you ended up in Singapore Pools as a Senior Director of HR, handling the people and culture.
Yeah. So maybe just a quick summary of my journey.
Yeah.
Basically, I was born Malaysian. So, and then was raised there. And then I went to the UK for my university, and I was in London for 10 years. So first 3 years really did a very technical a degree called actuarial science.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And then 7 years later, so I'm still working in London, and I qualified as an actuary. So when I realized that actually my love actually is to be with people and to support people and everything to do with people. So when I moved back from the UK to Singapore, I actually joined a consulting firm as well. And again, doing quite technical work, but I had an opportunity to move towards to be closer to working with the chief human resource officers, CHROs of other companies. And that's where I kind of validated that, wow, I think I really love working with many things that basically relates to people. So, and actually that's how it started. So, and within the company that I worked with, which was WTW, they were called Willis Towers Watson.
Yeah.
I was actually working very closely with, at that time, my Asia CEO, and he was actually looking for head of HR for Asia as well. And because I worked so closely with him on many consulting projects, he decided, would you like to move to the other side of the fence? And of course, I was very blessed with that opportunity. So I worked with him. And after that, I left that regional role. And then I joined Singapore Pools. And then I took on, obviously, my current role is to basically in the area of people and culture.
Cool. And just curious to know, when you learn actuary, right? Then how do you discover your passion in people?
Okay. So I was actually your usual actuarial student, kind of doing modeling, on the computer as what actuaries do, right?
Yeah.
My passion and calling is not sitting behind a computer doing modeling. So I decided actually that's kind of that trigger. And that's when I realized maybe I do want to explore a different possibility. Yeah.
But what led you into exploring the people space? Yeah.
I think when you come back to Singapore, you get to work with a lot more clients in Asia. In Singapore, in the UK, I had a few very, very big clients. But when I moved back to Asia, your world of clients just opened up and you get to work with so many different kind of clients. And when you touch on their projects, again, blessings, their projects were mostly people related. So, and that's when I kind of validated that, yes, this is the space that I want to be in.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
Okay, and then so after you joined Singapore Pools, right? So because you spent quite a long time there as well, tell us a little bit more about what are the some HR initiatives that you've run in terms of like in engaging your employees, as well as I know that Singapore Pools has been pretty big in the well-being space as well. Tell us a little bit more about that initiatives.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe I get a slight backstory.
Yeah.
About sort of my journey into
Yes.
Singapore Pools, and then we can talk a little bit about what I do there. So, I left Willis Towers Watson because the job required a lot of traveling. And my husband was also traveling because his job requires him to travel a lot. My husband used to do about 100 flights a year,
Wow.
which is actually more than an air steward or air stewardess, right? And so with my travels from the region, we barely saw the kids, or at least the kids barely saw the parents, which is not healthy, right? And they were young. So then we thought, okay, so I took like a 9-month break. And during that break, I did many things. I got involved in many charities. I got involved very heavily in my children's school. And then a headhunter called me and said that, oh, Debbie, I have an opportunity and it's with Singapore Pools. So I go, Singapore Pools? Aren't they like gambling, right? So I thought, maybe do I want to be associated, not associated? I thought, suspend judgment, let's find out more. But as I was working with so many charities, I had already heard about their name. So I just went to find out a bit more. And I realized, actually, they are the mama of charities. Meaning, as in a lot of things that we do in that space, a lot of big projects, infrastructure in the sort of like, whether it's Kallang Stadium, the Esplanade, Gardens by the Bay, a lot of funds actually came from Singapore Pools, and then obviously that it's used to be channeled to a lot of nation building initiatives. So that I realized, okay, this is a company where I felt, I think something that I would really want to explore. So I explore, and again, obviously the usual interview with the CEO, and so on and so forth. And then here I am 6 years later.
Wow. Nice.
And of course, Singapore Pools is very unique. Some would associate as, is it gambling and so on and so forth. So I always very unapologetically tell people that, the day Singaporeans stop to gamble, actually we're okay not to exist. But you kind of know that at the end of the day, we have a very a founding father that had a lot of foresight, that felt that, look, let's channel money that people are, whether they're just doing it for a flutter, and channel it back to society to do good.
Right.
So it was a very visionary man, obviously. So, and that's our mission. It's really to channel whatever proceeds that we take. So for every dollar that we collect, 70 cents actually goes back to prize payments, meaning actually people win our prizes, and so 70 cents goes back. We only keep 3 cents to run our operations.
Right.
So we're very prudent with how we spend, because it's really only 3 cents. And the other 27 cents, we channel it to tote board, and to obviously through taxes to IRAS, to basically fund whatever that the government deem fit. So that's how we kind of model ourselves. And it's important because, back in the 60s or whatever, you might say, we sort of make sure that the money don't go into triads, don't go to gangsters. But now actually it's about the money maybe going offshore to overseas, and which the money could have been kept in Singapore for Singaporeans and to build, sort of Singapore.
Yeah, it's really kind of like responsible gambling to also help Singaporean to control, not to spend money elsewhere as well, right?
Yeah. We have very, very stringent sort of safeguards as well. And, for customers who's basically got our app, and when you set your own limit, in a way, that's our way of encouraging to say you should only spend within your means. And we do not allow credit, we do not allow even joint bank accounts. It's basically an account that you must have money inside, and that's how we safeguard that you should not be borrowing money, to gamble. And even after you set limit, it's a very cute thing that I always share this story. For example, like World Cup, everybody gets really excited. English Premier League, wow, Manchester United is versus, whoever, right? And because of all that excitement, and let's just say you use your app to gamble, right? Then you go, I want to bet on that thing, but you set a limit. Now, in order to raise your limit, you put it in to say, I want to raise my limit. You're going to have to wait 24 hours
Oh, really?
before that limit gets so that in a way it's trying to kind of control your urge so that, in a way it's responsible gaming, right?
I see.
But if you want to reduce your limit, it's immediate.
Okay.
So in a way, we have mechanism to ensure that people are gambling responsibly to make sure that we don't create sort of any unintended consequences as well.
Interesting. And I remember, last time, I mean, I'm not really into kind of like doing, 4D Toto once in a while, yes. Of course, especially if my dad was like, ask me to buy one, then I will do that. But otherwise, it's kind of like very seldom, right? I remember those days, Singapore pools are very much like using paper and all that. And then slowly moving into the digitalization using apps and all that.
Yes.
I'm curious to hear from you, like, how is the process like, moving from the paper and pen into the digitalization space, and what are some challenges and how do you overcome that?
Okay. So it was a journey that actually started in obviously years ago, right? But we really truly basically went on remote, right? Actually in 2016. So it was 2000, so which is 8 years ago.
Right.
So essentially, we basically that infrastructure that we built allowed basically like the app to be born, so that people can actually sort of place their bets remotely. But even that, it was kind of like that journey was quite moderate, very moderate. I think it's because people still kind of felt, you have that lucky shops, obviously lottery is still a very big part of our business, right? And there's some of those lucky outlets,
and people will queue to buy from that shop, right?
Exactly, they will queue. So, but I guess like with the generation that comes and more generation that comes, right, the younger generations tend to, everything, right, they do on the phone. So I guess that next generation that's coming in, that's why the adoption of the app it's now obviously a lot more. So and that journey is basically also very important because we needed to upskill, reskill a lot of our people to be able to basically also support, that new infrastructure and so on and so forth. So it's been actually a very important journey because the illegals are very, very savvy. And if you don't have a platform that can help to give people an alternative to the illegals, then basically the illegals were really going to be capturing a big market. And then again, we will not be fulfilling our mission.
Interesting. So actually it took like since 2016 to now, it takes like about 8 years.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So it's kind of like really progressively building on into the skills, training the people and stuff like that, right? To be able to really fully, like, not really fully transform into the online or apps as well, because people still like buying it from the shop, right? In a way. So interesting. And just to also curious to hear, coming back to some of the initiatives that you have run for your employees, right? In terms of upskilling, also the well-being piece. Do you mind sharing a little bit more on that?
Yeah, definitely. So at the end of the day, our people are really what helps with the business, right? So a business is just a word. If there's no people doing things, there's no business, right? So hence, I think most importantly, when we look at our people, we actually only want two things, okay? For people to actually love coming to work, right? I mean, I know it sounds very motherhood, right? But in a very deep sense level, right, is to really have people actually look forward to what they do, be passionate about what they do, and look forward to coming to work. That's one. Second part is learning is always a journey, right? Lifelong learning. Again, it's for people to genuinely, from the deeper level, actually enjoy learning. So a lot of our people initiatives, right, it's around, sort of like, basically allowing people to come up to be their best, the best of themselves, right? So, and how do you be best of themselves, right? So you've got this body, right? This physical body here. You've got, obviously your mind, which people will argue whether mental is part of the physical. Actually, it's all within the same, right? So essentially to also support people's life journey. So they come in, how do you ensure that you have, they are supported at every step of the way? So when they come in, very simple things. When they come in, do they have a buddy that, they can tag team with? So I'm saying like very event level things, but these are kind of things that are important. So when they come in, do they feel like, oh, they're lost? or do you already know that, hey, they have a laptop, they come in, they know where to go for help, right? To even things like, how do they form friends at work, right? Do we create spaces for people to have activities so that they can make friends?
Right.
And when it comes to, obviously now the big thing is about mental, right? Then how do we support people? Because I would tell you that the journey was not easy. So we embarked on our kind of mental health initiative back in 2022, September, right? And I remember when we rolled out at the September town hall, I had a colleague. He mentioned it in Hokkien to say, oh, this is for crazy people.
Okay.
Because I think if it's at if you're not have that kind of slightly older mindset, you think that it's something that you don't talk about. And if you talk about it, it means something is wrong.
And especially it's taboo, right? Talking about mental health and stuff.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So and with that, I will tell you that journey started off with that, like, oh, this is for crazy people, right? To like basically journeying and continue with that resilience. And we have workshops, we actually have activities, and this particular colleague actually also started to attend. And I will tell you that I just use this colleague as an example. He journeyed a few, and then now he's open to talking about it. So I'm just mentioning that one example because it's an example that I can quote very vividly.
Right.
Because he was the one who mentioned that, right? But I would say that even for some of my colleagues, they will come over to the people and culture team and they tell us openly to say, oh, I've actually reached out to a counselor to talk. And you would not even imagine this, in the past people would say, I'm not going to tell you whether I'm speaking to a counselor, but this is someone that is actually coming in to say, oh, I'm actually speaking to a counselor and giving us feedback to say, oh, actually this counselor was good. So I thought, wow. So I would say that from the beginning where people don't want to talk about it, to right now people coming to the team, someone who's attending workshops, to people actually even sometimes, I wouldn't say that the app is everything, right? But sometimes you get feedback. People will actually say, oh, I was listening to this session and I was doing it on my bus journey on the way to work, and I was just listening to it. Which I thought, wow, so people started to kind of, in their own way, incorporate it in their own daily routine. Which I thought was good.
Nice. So what I learned, what I heard from you earlier is that really focusing on the employee experience, making sure that people, felt they have buddy at work, right? And then they know what to do when they come for the first day and stuff like that. And also the second part is really supporting your employee in their well-being journey as well, in terms of introducing some activities, to help them becoming better, or is that like a physical activities or something?
We have those physical activities as well. And Ratna, it's very, very good point you share on that. I've actually only touched on the surface, but essentially we have a lot of resources in place, and we even dive into communication. So when people want to talk, right, they'll go, how open is this organization? Do I feel psychologically safe to share? Right? And it's very real. It's very real. So I have multiple prongs of kind of pillars to try and address that. For example, even people might think it's simple, but actually it's how you do it. For example, skip level communications, even with the CEO. How safe do people feel to share with the CEO? Quite daunting, right? So again, it's like session after session. How do you set that context to say it's okay to share? So I would say that we even start off by saying that, oh, the previous session shared on this is what we have done, whether the leaders have done it, these are the actions that we took to address some of the feedback that we've given, and people see it. And those actions are real. And people see it and people go, oh, actually they really do what they say.
I see.
So then you build session after session, then people will know it's okay to provide feedback.
I see.
And even simple things like, many companies do engagement survey, and it's fantastic to do that. So we take our engagement surveys very seriously as well. But when you ask a question, don't just ask for the sake of asking. When you ask it, do you mean it and do you action on it? So we're quite serious. After asking, we are very serious on the leaders holding all the different sessions. We collate the feedback and we follow up. We actually track. And then after that, we really look at what are the initiatives that is done, and we actually share back so that the people who know that, hey, you've asked me about questions, I've given you my feedback, but if time and time and time again, nothing is done, what do you think will happen? People will stop sharing, or people will go, share for what? Nothing is done.
Yeah.
So we take it very seriously. So we've done 4 rounds of engagement survey, and this is our 5th round. And people see time and time again, if things are done, they believe that their voice matters. Yes.
Okay, cool. And so this engagement survey is being done anonymously?
It's anonymous. So it's open to all colleagues, and our participation rate is very, very good. It's 98% and above.
Oh, wow. That's really very high. How do you measure that kind of like high engagement rate or participation rate?
Somehow maybe our leaders are very engaging. They kind of know that, okay, the engagement survey is important. Our leaders are very good. They actually encourage their teams to participate, and they know that with all the feedback, we will try our best to take the actions that are necessary. So I think, like I said, time and time again, people kind of know. Then they go, okay, my voice matters. And when they feel and they perceive that their voice matters, then they want to speak.
Nice. How do you kind of like also empower the leaders to be able to provide this very safe space for your staff to be able to voice their concerns and all that?
So I guess we do it. We do it, I would say maybe intrinsically we'll do it 2 ways. One is actually we do, for example, I give an example, like for example, mental health awareness. We work with a vendor to basically roll out sessions, mental health awareness sessions for our leaders. Not to train them to be counselors, but just to train them to even be able to spot like, oh, there's something going on, signs. And it's basically just to maybe have that slightly deeper conversations, and then after that, if that's something, to be able to point that someone to the right resource, even as simple as that, then people will, oh wow, my leaders care for me, they genuinely care, right? And I think the second part is leaders need to walk the talk. So we have 360s for our leaders. Again, 360 is something that many companies do, but in Singapore Pools, we built our own 360s. In-house. And most 360s are just about competencies. Oh, how good are you about the job? Do you have this? Do you have that, right? Our competencies include red flags. Red flags meaning behaviors that we do not wish to see in leaders. For example, hoarding of information. Claiming credit from your team members.
I see.
Throwing people under the bus. Right? Or basically sacrifice other people for your own personal interest. I mean, I'm just giving you examples. And these are red flags that we take very seriously. So why I mentioned about the leaders need to walk the talk, the leaders themselves need to role model. So we started this 360 actually at the top, including the CEO. They started the 360s first. To basically to openly share, to say, teams, it's okay to give your feedback anonymously to the P&C team, and your feedback is anonymous. We don't know who gave what, but we mean it, and we will act on it. So after the results are gathered, we actually we have a psychology in my team, and we actually have coaching sessions with the leaders. So it's something that we take on very seriously.
Wow.
Yeah. So the leaders know that team engagement is important, and they do it with a lot of authenticity.
That's really very encouraging to hear. And I mean, I believe that when people see the leaders walk the talk, they will be able to also being very much open to share and very much willing to, co-create this safe environment, right? So that everyone is also feeling safe to be able to voice out their concerns and all that. Yeah.
Yes.
And because you mentioned earlier that you take the engagement survey very seriously as well, and really implementing some of these initiatives to improve on the areas that they have concerns, right? Like some of the initiatives that you run, like the well-being or even mental health initiatives, how do you measure the effectiveness of it? Yeah.
So I would say that obviously the provider that we work with have kind of dashboards, that obviously, that when people use the app, they enter in some surveys to say, oh, where are you at? But why I'm saying that may not necessarily be the most important is sometimes, so obviously that mental health has a whole spectrum, right?
Yep.
And you regulate between the spectrum. You don't sit on one spectrum forever, neither do you sit on the other spectrum forever. You kind of move, right, between that. Some days are very stressful, you might be around on the red side, but it's also about resilience, how you kind of are very aware of that, and how then you start to move yourself to the okay side of that spectrum, right? So how I would say I was measure is I can tell you all the slew about Ratna, we have dashboards, and the dashboards inform me, that for people who use the app, there's been an increase, in their mental state, because that's what they have put into the thing. They have, sort of, we have that. And then
the campaigns,
the
promote
campaigns,
that,
So I mean, we have all that. But ultimately, what I kind of want to see is also how that translates to, even as basic as are people taking a lot of sick leave. Usually that's a sign.
Yes.
Right? People may be okay there over some, you see like shifts in trends. Are people taking a lot of sick leave, or are they coming more engaged? Their work seems to be okay. We're having less kind of, employee grievances. People are more open to coming to talk about things like that. So I actually do see it more on the ground.
The behavioral
changes versus I can tell you, yes, we have dashboards. Even the engagement survey, I can tell you, certain markers or certain indicators are better. For example, I would tell you that one of the things that we have is a plus 10 points increase, which in an engagement survey is very significant. It's like a green, major green, right? Which is actually people believe that actions are taken after the survey. So that was a plus point. In the previous survey, some said that, maybe we need to do a bit more on innovation. And then this survey, you see innovation actually went up. As in this survey compared to last survey, because of the feedback and things that we've done, right? So, a lot of the leaders who's been involved in the innovation side has done a lot of work to try and, create that innovation culture as well. So I would say that these are the indicators that we see that is real.
Interesting. And so like from the initiative that you have run and all that, right? Like, did you see some kind of like increase in productivity, especially your employees and all that?
I would say that, again, how do you measure productivity, right? Unless you're kind of like lawyers or consultants where you have to do time charge and you have to enter your hours and all that. So, but even that for back office like HR, finance, there's only so much of. So I would say I would say that people, if they are engaged, they tend to collaborate better, right? When you collaborate better and you share ideas, in a way, naturally, you become more efficient. You become more innovative. You do things better. People look at it and they look at this process and go, okay, this is a very manual process. How do we, for example, look at this current process and go, can we do better? Can we eliminate some of the steps? And then after that, how can we automate it and digitalize?
Right.
So I would say, for example, maybe I bring it a bit closer to home. I'll give you two examples. One is maybe within the field, even within P&C, HR, or I would say within some of the compliance team or even my facilities management, the teams on the ground, this is really on the ground, right, has actually really looked at their own process and they go, I think we can automate. And they really, really have automated their process and taken away some of the sort of like more manual work and all that. And in a way, this has come on quite recent, really literally over the last few years. So that kind of tells you, so what has changed, right? Why are they sort of like more keen to automate? I would go back to maybe the mindset of innovation culture, the leaders giving space for them to fail.
Yeah.
And they feel it is okay, I feel safe to fail. Because even if I try and I fail, I can get back up. So that people, in a way, again, it comes back to psychological safety. Do I feel safe to be here? Right? So, and that's why you see those things, right? And then the second example I want to give you is, even when it comes to roles, I've got an employee who used to be a part-timer, right? And she was working frontline in our branches, right? And we provide training, it's equal, we provide training to our employees. And she decided that, maybe I can, now we basically train her with more digital skills, and now actually she's our customer experience officer. She's now basically moving from behind where you process people's lotteries and all that. She's come up to the front. She's holding an iPad in her hand, and she's actually helping customers onboard to the app and helping them to troubleshoot, which in a way is a very different skill set. So again, why are people feeling that I'm able to
step out,
explore, learn, and try something different? Try a different possibility, right? So I felt that these are, again, a dashboard is a dashboard, but these are real because these are individual humans.
Love it. And how, as a leaders, right, how do you balance between, allowing the employee to make mistakes, but at the same time as well, achieving the goals or KPI, right? Yeah. How do you find that balance?
So I guess if you look at, a lot of things that you can do, right? You have certain projects that you kind of know, okay, smaller projects, okay for them to try it out, give it to them. Actually identify and give it to them and let them explore. Of course, you've got the big mega projects, for example, our core systems or whatever, that cannot fail, right? Then of course you don't use those projects, right? But people will look and say, okay, if I'm allowed to explore, right, that's how you start culture building as well. So, and that's how we do it. We use the smaller ones that we go, let them play. We don't have an intense timeline on it, but that if they get it right, more efficient, higher productivity, you've learned to build the skills, the muscles, they've learned new things, why not? Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, let's take a little bit, dive deeper into the leadership, especially as a female leaders, right? I'm curious to hear from you, how do you basically move along in your career journey, and how probably the role of mentorship has helped you in your journey?
Okay. So I'm going to say something very, very controversial. I've never seen myself as a woman in the workplace. I've never had that lens. And I would actually say the same actually for my colleagues. Somehow that lens that I'm a woman and I start to look across the table and go, I am the only woman here. We've never had that lens. So when and it's very real, when we hire, right? We don't hire looking at you to say, are you a woman or a man? We generally, of course, want to hire for the right skill sets. But at the same time, of course, we're conscious of diversity. Of course we are. Now, I know it's controversial because people will say, but Debbie, if you're not conscious about being a man or a woman, if someone walks into that boardroom and they see if it's all men, hello, you're not very diverse, right? But thank goodness our board is very diverse. But I'm just giving an example that people might. So then, Debbie, how do you answer that question? How do you say that your board is diverse? How do you say that your leadership is diverse if you don't carry that lens? So that's why I say what I'm saying is controversial, is because deep down in the core, and I know this of my leaders as well, we genuinely don't put on that lens. Now that said, we know that not everybody may be wired that way. So in a way, when we look at board nominations, we have no choice but to have that lens to say, okay, our board composition, we have, whatever. Then we go, do we consciously try to look for diversity, try to be inclusive and make sure we have more female representation. So we still do that, right? And then when we are looking for replacement hires, and my leaders are very, very good. they actually know how to come and tell me, say, Debbie, I already have a lot of gentlemen. So maybe we try our best, right, to look for more diverse. They would be the ones to come and tell me to say we should look. So even though they try not to carry that lens, but they're also very aware that let's try to have that balance so that people, when we hire people don't feel like, say, hey, how come I'm the only lady here? So
can be very intimidating.
Yes, can be quite intimidating. I mean, vice versa. Like I'm in P&C, right? People and culture, and that's HR, right? We are people and culture in Singapore Pools. We are female dominated, right? So again, I'm very conscious. My male colleague, how we want to ensure that he feels included.
Yeah,
They feel included and they feel that we are together, right? So I would say very conscious, making sure whether even from the board composition to our hiring practices. Again, I know I sound controversial, we don't have that lens, but we are conscious because we also want to make sure that we are inclusive. And in terms of coming back to mentorship, again, very open. When anybody approaches us, or me in particular, I'm always very open. So whether in my past life, when I was in my previous company, I actually mentored a few women who came to me, and blessings, they've done very well. One have actually gone even overseas to Korea, and she's joined a startup, as part of one of the founding companies, and she's a Singaporean, so flying the Singapore flag high, right, overseas. So these are really blessings. Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks to you for, being so open to guide others to pave their ways as well, right? But thanks for sharing that you didn't put on that lens, but being very conscious about making sure that we do have a female representation in the organizations. But I mean, in my own observations as well as a female, and maybe my friends and fellow colleagues as well, right? They do have put on that lens as well. So because of that, it makes it very difficult for them to be able to maybe of like progressing in their careers because they think that they are probably not capable enough to be able to perform and all that. What would be some advice you have for, female who wanted to step up, or maybe climbing up the corporate ladders and, being able to...
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
My advice would be, first is, don't try to become a man or act like them, because that's just not them, right?
Yeah.
So I think my first advice is actually really, in the deepest level, be yourself. I know it sounds like, again, very motherhood. People go, Debbie, you can say that. No, I really mean it. It's really to be yourself. And I say that from experience is because I came from past experience where also the leadership very male dominated, and this is whether it's MNC and overseas and all that. It sometimes, as an Asian lady, again, if I want to force myself to put on that lens, now I'm putting on that lens, Asian, female, and my size doesn't help. I'm putting on many lenses now.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm putting on many lenses now. Okay, I'm forcing those lenses. Sometimes it can be very intimidating.
Yes.
Right? You walk into the room, they're all so much taller than you.
Yeah.
Bigger. Their voice they can project it louder.
Yes.
Right? So I would say that it does take time. So we need, in a way, be yourself and maybe find allies. There are actually many good leaders out there that is very, very supportive. We just need to find those allies.
Right.
That's one. Secondly is, it's again easier said than done, but we need to build the confidence. To build the confidence to actually really believe that not to just believe, okay? I stress, you don't believe, that you are very good at what you do. Yeah. And it takes time, and in a way, surrounding yourself with allies, with people, and then you kind of know and you're very good at what you do. In a way, people will see and go, wow, Ratna, you're really capable. You're really, really capable, Ratna. So naturally, anybody who's pro productivity, pro efficiency, pro business, they would go, why would I not want Ratna on my team? Right? Natural. So, yeah, Ratna's perfect for the job. Yeah.
Thank you. How do you build confidence?
How do I build confidence? I would say it's not easy. Again, motherhood, there's some, I'll tell you that I'm not 100% like, wow, Debbie walks in and, all totally in confidence, right? I would say sometimes it's about, firstly, I would say that it's about being very present. Sometimes people will come in guns blazing and thinking that they're best things since sliced bread. They may not know a lot, but they come in super confident, right? Actually, that's not the kind of confidence that I'm talking about. I'm talking about confidence about actually being able to be present and be very observant about people. At the end of the day, any business is people business. Why? Everything that we do on planet Earth, from technology to everything, why are we doing this? Everything is about well-being of a human. We're doing everything just so that we can get everybody to be better. We want planes to get us. Last time we cannot fly, right? We were just walking. Bicycles were invented so that we can go further, right?
Yeah.
So everything is about people. So I would say that, coming back to why I'm trying to say this is, when you walk into a room, right, trying to understand the other person, what is the other person trying to do? Why is that person trying to do this? What is that person's problems can you help to solve, or do you, maybe you can't solve, but do you understand? When you start from that very fundamental human connection, right, people tend to relate to you. They'll go, wow, I can relate to Ratna. Then Ratna will have a window to come in and in a way kind of try to, whether it's problem solve or just trying to understand where you're coming from. That's when you get many, many windows of opportunities, and that over time builds confidence because people actually believe in you because you somehow can relate to them. And relating, it cannot be fake. It must come from a very authentic place. So, and it starts from you just being very present and trying to understand that person. So I know it sounds like, Debbie, it sounds really weird, but it's really at that level. Yeah.
I love it. I think that's like the fundamental things of like relating with people, right? Relating with heart, knowing that you have, this quality of care, quality of compassion, knowing that, everyone is somehow struggling in some ways, right? But at the end of the day, how can you relate with the person at a human level, knowing their pains, the problems, and how can I support you better in whatever struggles that you are going through. And I think that creates a lot of connections that helps you to build connections with people. And when you do that, more intentionally and all that, I think that really helps to build a lot of confidence in yourself, right? And over the time, it kind of like also build that muscles, right?
Yes, exactly.
I love that. I think that's a very unconventional answers that I receive from people that I kind of like exchange conversation with. So thank you for that. And I think just one more last questions I have. Like, since you have been successfully implementing this well-being initiatives successfully at Singapore Pools, right? What would be some advice would you give to HR leaders who wanted to also implement similar well-being initiatives to make it successful?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would say that, again, quite unconventional.
I love unconventional advice.
So I can give you a whole spiel about, we partner with a vendor. They gave us an app, and that app, was easy for people to own time, own space, they can do all their mental sessions. It's good. So I'm saying that, but it's a positive. But all I'm trying to say is, while the app was something that we onboarded and we actually work closely, right? Actually, it's more than that. We also went on to, give people, we even have sports leave in Singapore Pools because we support, Singapore Pools is very supportive of sports. That's one of the things that, we were sort of, born, to sort of support, like whether football, the Singapore Sports, Singapore Football League, right? So we have a colleague who basically compete in the Southeast Asia Games, and we are very supportive in the sports. We also support the Paralympians. That's again one of the things that we do as well, right? we provide sports leave of 21 days.
Oh,
In addition to our annual leave.
21 days.
Yes.
That's
just
a lot.
For anybody who represents Singapore, we're very serious to say if you are solid, you represent Singapore, we want to support you. Fly the Singapore flag high. So we give that 21 days because it's actually very intense. They need to do a lot of training.
Yeah.
So they need to take time off, and we didn't want them to kind of squeeze out all their annual leave. And so hence we gave them this additional 21 days
very
on
nice.
top of their annual leave to support that journey, right? So why I share that thing is while we have multiple of leave programs, okay? So it's whether it's an app, it's more leaves or even more cash. We've got wellness dollars, which we've increased double the wellness dollars for our employees so that they can use that for whether it's health screening and so on and so forth, or whatever that they want. So essentially they can use it, and we've doubled that amount as well. So it's not about the app. It's not about more leaves. It's not even about the cash, it's,
Or the yoga class, the
Or the
meditation
it's not
class,
even
whatever.
actually the best mental well-being, the most important part of that actually is a kind and caring boss. You come to work and you can have the app, you can have yoga classes, HR will tell you, I've got this. But if you have an unkind boss, it makes your work very, very difficult, right? So actually it's a kind and caring boss. So we actually spend a lot of time and effort actually preparing our leaders to make sure that they understand what it is to be a leader. And what is a leader? A leader is also another human, right?
Yeah.
They also have their own mental well-being to take care of, right?
Yeah.
So again, how do they take care of their mental well-being? Because if they cannot take care of themselves, how do you expect them to take care of their
Exactly.
teams?
The oxygen theory, right?
Yes, exactly. So we spend a lot of time and effort to make sure that our leaders take care of themselves. And then how do we then train them, equip them so that they know how to at least take care of their team members. So that's very important. So yes, we've got app, we've got all of that. We've got many programs, skip levels, town halls, engagement service, many things that we do, support systems. But a kind and caring boss is very important.
Totally. People quit managers,
Yes.
right? And I think it's amazing to see that you are really spending a lot of time really training your leaders to be able to have a kind, caring, and compassionate heart so that they can also support their people.
Yes.
It was amazing. Thank you so much, Debbie, for this very uplifting conversations. And I am really very happy to see, that kind of like amazing initiatives that you've implemented at Singapore Pools and how it can also support others to be able to grow and thrive, right? And thank you so much for, sharing and, taking time to share this with the community as well. Really grateful for that.
Very happy to share and very happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the MindGem Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please leave us a review, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring conversations. Until next time, keep discovering your inner gem and shining bright.